I've been a victim of gang stalking for a long time, and there are a number of things I wish I knew much earlier in my targeting. So, what makes this gang stalking and attacks by remote energy weapons effective? It's just that perpetrators are following a very detailed and thought out manual or some sort of template. It's very systematic, planned out, more like a project that destroys a target who's most likely not aware and has never even heard of gang stalking. So this is done using documented scripts and tactics. And the main key here is that these are done in some sort of sequence and only small parts are revealed. It's almost like a target has to walk into a series of mini traps. So in very simple terms, gang stalking aims to destroy everything that makes a human function in this world. And some straightforward areas of attack would be to simply just make a person an outcast. So that's maybe the first area. And then also just destroy all means to make a living or an income. The other one, which is the big one, is to induce different types of health issues on the victim. I mean, the end goal is very simple. It's just to destroy the target over a long time and then just make your life hell. But just what are the things I wish I understood a lot earlier? The first thing, it's not really related to gang stalking. I just wish I was aware of conspiracy theories in the context of general knowledge. So this is more along the lines of things that everyone knows, but are not really considered real, and it doesn't affect everyday life and they get taken for granted. A very good example would be watching a movie or a TV series. If it's a science fiction, it wouldn't be a shock if aliens are part of the script or there's some super advanced computer that wants to take over humans. But I was completely ignorant, so it doesn't matter if the conspiracies are wacky or they're silly or they're stupid, and I should have at least have read about them or seen them being made fun or mocked somewhere. There will always be a top 10 list of common conspiracies that should be immediately dismissible or laughed. This would be ranging from lizard people controlling the world, even the cartoon Pinky and the Brain, where there's some sort of device to control another person like a puppet. But I have never heard of anything, even like the tinfoil hat joke, chemtrails, or artificially controlling the weather. So there's obviously a big difference between being aware of conspiracies and actually believing them. What is not a conspiracy, however, is the history of using innocent people for medical experimentation. There are a number of extremely unethical long-running experiments in the 1950s to the 1970s where people were just treated like animals for medical research. I did not know about these instances. That's how ignorant I was. I didn't even know about MK Ultra. Now moving on to another point, which is a little bit more abstract. I wish I knew there's no limit to the amount of evil in this world. And once you become a targeted individual and a number of just repeated injustices are ignored by those in power, then you slowly realize that evil has got a completely different meaning. For targeted individuals, the idea of evil goes beyond just the crime that you can report. And for the average non-victim, if somebody has done something against you, like a serious crime, you can report this thing to the police. Somehow it might get resolved. So basically, for people that are not yet targeted individuals, there wouldn't be anything hidden. Everything appears to be straightforward, and there doesn't seem to be any sort of secret agenda or secret evil happening. I wish I understood much quicker the line from the Matrix movie, where Morpheus shows Neo the reality of the world, and that the system of the world is not as glitzy, fair, and transparent. There can be many interpretations of that scene, and one of them could be that everything to do with human civilization is corrupt, and there's some hidden agenda deliberately hidden from every person. So I think events of 2020 opened the eyes of many people who are not targeted 24/7. And then conspiracies that were once wacky and crazy started gaining some credibility. So everyone got to witness how the machine didn't care, like the number of people that lost their lives, as long as some agenda was being rolled out. This would have been difficult for me to understand back in 2015, that our world and its systems are simply rigged. The financial system, healthcare, the fact that someone can manufacture something in a lab. And today, some phrases are very common, such as the industrial military complex, meaning there's a group of people that can drive out some global agenda and effectively manipulate events of the world. And it's not a crazy conspiracy theory, but it would have been before 2020. So people's eyes were opened when the whole world was forced to be indoors, businesses were closed, sports fixtures were postponed. And today, the Matrix has a completely different meaning for the average person. And another point has to do with religion. I wish I understood a little bit quicker that religion is also heavily corrupt. It's also part of the matrix. And there's not one institution in this world system that is not under some sort of manipulation or control. So religion is a very effective mind control tool, since it is not meant to be questioned and on the surface has very good intentions. In isolation, most religious teachings are noble and should be a standard for humans for being decent. But as a targeted individual, I struggled to understand why some people who are heavily involved in gang stalking also have no problem or no shame throwing Bible verses around or being heavily involved with the church. It's either a clear contradiction of serving two masters, or that there is in reality only one master, and that master is the matrix. Perpetrators of gang stalking it's almost like they have some sort of insider information that religion is mostly a scam and that nothing is possibly going to happen after this life. In their core belief, there's no hell, there's no judgment, no karma, and according to them, this life is all we have. I'm in no way trying to bash or diminish religion. The point is not to stop believing in God, but my point is that once you become a TI, you will basically just question many things and see a pattern where reality is not what it seems. There is a twist in this whole religion point that I'm trying to make. Somebody else could think I'll be smarter and just not be a sheep that simply follows some antiquated religion. But the reality of life is that any person living in this secular world is bound to have a number of other things which take up most of their time. This could be a hobby, it could be traveling, and you might have to use a plane if you're traveling, and you are watching something on some screen, a series or movies or sports. Ironically, there's not really any free thinking because all conveniences by technology or industrialization are part of the matrix. So we're not really free. You can't say I'm a free thinker, I don't need religion, but yet there's something else that's taking up most of your attention and you are not in charge of that thing. The point really is that there's no escaping the system of the world. So these are just some high level points I wish I understood right from the first day of learning about gang stalking. Yes, targets have it the hardest, and it is physically painful from the energy weapons, but everyone else is also connected to this matrix. So there's no meditation, no movie, no music, or playing computer games or religion that can sort of get you to completely unplug. And then more directed to gang stalking, I think everyone is more or less a TI already. So everyone who's born in a hospital is probably somehow microchip or somehow connected to the same supercomputer used to control targeted individuals. And this would have been long before 2020. So the conspiracies that only became popular centered around, having to take something to make that thing go away, the mark of the beast. It wouldn't really change the fact that almost everyone is already mind controlled. When starting out as a new target, you will be made to believe that everyone is a perpetrator and that everyone is spying on you. Reality is that it's not everyone. And sometimes when out in public, some random people get temporarily mind controlled to appear to be harassing you. Another point, there's nothing to stop the gang stalking or the directed energy weapons or the voice to skull. There is absolutely nothing. So victims are mind controlled and they get scammed into thinking they can shield or reduce the effects of their attacks basically, there's no need to waste money on things like Faraday cages or coating or frequency jammers. We must still look after ourselves. Victims must still eat healthy, they must be presentable. Try and be as good to yourself as much as possible. But I wish I understood there's nothing, you can't stop this. It's an advanced technology. Somebody put a lot of money into developing this thing and it cannot be stopped easily. Another point, there's no lawsuit, there's no class action that will beat the government and where victims are going to win and get to sue the government. That's not going to happen because those that are in charge of the system are going to make sure people are enslaved for their gain. As you become a victim and you're struggling for a long time and you have this hope, and out of desperation, you get mind controlled to listen to stories about lawsuits and you get given false hope. Things like you can somehow scan and have some proof that you have a microchip, and then if there's enough people, if there's like 1,000, 10,000 people in the class action lawsuit, we can all get to win this case. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen. This thing is only going to stop something major is going to have to happen to stop it. And moving on, it looks like every person has got a date of expiry, or to put it very politely, a date at which they're going to have to leave this world or leave this earth. From my observations, it just sort of looks like there's some spreadsheet somewhere that perpetrators are keeping track of, and death does not appear to be natural or organic. So it looks scripted. And anyone can just maybe take an observation of a lot of people that seem to pass away roughly within the same time frame. This would be people within the same industry or people that are doing the same similar trade. For example, maybe well-known politicians. So within maybe a few days, you would have maybe a few of them across the world, they pass on. And then months go by. Then next time around, it's athletes who once played a very particular sport. They all pass away within a few days of each other. So it does look like passing away is almost not organic, it's almost scripted. Another point, perpetrators are always there. Once you become a target, even if the gang stalking appears to have gone a little bit silent, they're always there, they're always hiding, they're always in the background. Their favorite trick is to fool the victim to think that they control their destiny. But they are always manipulating events or using subliminal voice to skull. And then a similar point is that all the key events that happen in a target's life are scripted, and the target cannot change the outcome. Just again, from that movie, The Matrix, where we all think that we've got choice or destiny, or we think that we can affect our lives. But most targets that have been in this program for a long time, they have accepted the fact that you become basically 100% a puppet. And I must stress this point that it's not just for a few minutes that perpetrators are going to be using the mind control, or that a victim does something productive and then the perpetrator comes along later to destroy whatever thing you were doing. That is not the case. All events are scripted in advance, and all possible outcomes are already mapped out, and the victim is just really like a human robot that's just walking into a script. I mean, the goal here is to leave you with no tangible profit, no progress, and you've effectively just been wasting time. That is the list of things I wish I understood much earlier on in my targeting. And it actually turns out it's not so much about gang stalking, but more about the matrix. There is a hidden agenda by use of secret technology for some dystopian goal, which has not yet been made clear to everyone. And since the events of 2020, this agenda has started to become clear even for the average person.